Hey everyone, I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to be redesigning the Teen Titans. As a huge fan of the 2003 animated series, I eventually went to my local Barnes & Noble and I bought a copy of George Perez and Marv Wolfman's original 80s graphic novel, and I was very shocked to find that Raven was depicted as an Indian woman in the comic, at least as far as my eyes could tell. After I finished that graphic novel, I read everything I could get my hands on with the Teen Titans, and I saw how, the character changed drastically over time. And although she's always depicted as a Caucasian goth, the original image of Raven as a light-skinned Indian woman with a bendy shaped like a raindrop on her head and wearing a sari, I don't know, it just was always in my mind, so I took to the internet to see what other people thought of this phenomenon. Some people completely wrote off this interpretation of the character, writing off the earlier depictions of her as a white girl appropriating Desi culture. The biggest argument is that eventually there were comics confirming that her real name was Rachel Roth, and Roth is a German last name, and that her mother was a white woman from California with very strict Catholic upbringing. I had to scroll on Reddit for a long time before I finally found someone who was willing to humor my interpretation that there was an argument that Raven could be depicted as white or mixed race with Indian or just completely Indian altogether. This was also the first post to mention Persis Khambatta. Who is Persis Khambatta? Glad you asked. She's quite literally the person that Raven was modeled after. I think this panel that I showed you earlier actually shows the strongest resemblance. You can really tell by the facial structure. But yeah, no joke, in this interview, George Perez literally is talking about who inspired each of the characters on the Teen Titans and how Raven was initially modeled after Persis Khambatta, who is an actress that was on Star Trek, and then later he started modeling her off of a different actress named Fran McGregor, who is a white person. I think that sets the tone for this video, so keep watching to see me redesign the Teen Titans and talk about how much I love them and why I make the decisions I do. With all that being said, let's jump into the video. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up my feelings on the subject. I think there is an argument to be had that I think the white version of Raven has had a lot of time to shine, and the fact that she was initially conceptualized and modeled after an Indian woman, I think it just says it all. There's no reason why we can't go back to the original version. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this, and I just really feel like that initial version should have a shot at being depicted. So for this redesign, I really want to be faithful to her personality from the 2003 show that I think a lot of us grew up with and really made us be attached to this character. But also at the end of the day, my philosophy for redesigning all of the Teen Titans across the board are to make them depicted as real teenagers that exist today. And so I want that to include a diverse cast. I kept thinking with this redesign about the new Wednesday show, how it was the first time that an actress of color, specifically a Latina actress, got to play as Wednesday, and Jenna Ortega killed that role. It was so phenomenal, and she never would have gotten that opportunity if another white actress had been cast in the role. So I just think, let's give a Desi girl a shot at playing her, you know what I mean? So for my redesign, I took a lot of inspiration from Pinterest. I was looking at fashion, and I wanted to be faithful to that goth aesthetic, but mixing it with some more traditional Indian clothes, specifically the sari that she was depicted in. And I found a lot of these alt girls who are of South Asian descent that wear their saris in very interesting or experimental ways. So I drew her wrapping her sari in the dhoti pant style, but there's some asymmetry going on, I think somewhat on purpose, where it's shorter on one end and longer on the other, and then she has tights underneath, and of course she's still wearing that all black. I didn't know if I should have gone for jewel tones, but the more that I thought about it, it just seemed more goth to stick with the earth tones, so I end up making the sari, instead of the raven blue that we're familiar with, a nice olive neutral earth toned green. And I felt justified in this because, in the original comic, she's depicted in some of these bright jewel tones. We never really think of Raven in pink, so it's why can't her pop of color be a nice green? Also, Beast Boys green. I don't know, I just thought that was cute. Also, in regards to her bendy, it varies from culture to culture, but generally speaking, red means that you are a married woman. So I made it the black color, as in an unmarried woman, because Raven is a teenager and not married. But also, she's goth, so the black works even better, so it's like another reason why it's perfect. I also drew her with this prop in her hand. I just felt like she needed a book because she was always reading a book in the original cartoon. This particular book is the back cover of an Ottessa Moshfegh novel called Lapvona, and if you know anything about Ottessa Moshfegh, she writes really dark, grotesque books about unhinged women, and I feel like she would be right up Raven's alley. A very good, pretentious read. So yeah, I think all of that's pretty self-explanatory. This is pretty much Raven's final design, and with that being done, let's go ahead and jump on to our next character, Starfire. Now, Starfire, no surprise, was my favorite character out of all the Teen Titans. I love her so much, and it's because she's just so frickin' pretty and kind. I love kind, shining, sunshine, amazing, feminine women. So yeah, I was really excited to tackle redesigning Starfire. It's a bit intimidating. Sometimes I psych myself out whenever I draw my absolute favorite characters. Like when I draw Wonder Woman, sometimes it doesn't come out right because I let it get too intense. But I really just let myself have fun. The problem with redesigning Starfire is that there's once again two very conflicting versions of the character. This is sadly the 2003 show's fault because before that, Starfire was pretty much always depicted as, even though she was very warm and very loving and energetic and supportive of her friends, she was ultimately a device to be Robin's sexual awakening and his transition from boyhood into manhood as Nightwing. And so because of that, her sexuality was at the forefront of her character. She wore very revealing clothing, had very big hair, and that was very crucial to her. Whereas in the 2003 show, it was aimed at kids, so it was a much younger Starfire that was originally pitched as a grown-up Bubbles, like from the Powerpuff Girls, so sexuality could not be farther from her. She's very innocent. And so these conflicting versions of the character has not really gelled well, like trying to find a perfect balance between the two. In some of the direct-to-video movies, the halfway point between the two is like a maternal figure, like the grown-up Starfire that leads the Teen Titans in that particular franchise. I think this is okay, but I would do it more like Barbiecore. So that's why I have her in Barbiecore here for my redesign. This is literally a look that Margot Robbie served on the red carpet. And I feel like Barbiecore is the perfect intersection of like hyper femme queen that is still very sexy, but it also has this like innocent undertone to it, and it's also just very fashion, you know? She was a model in the comics, gotta bring that back. I make her skin tone this very bright, vibrant gold color like from the comics, but her face and her hair texture is actually based off of Erin Kellyman, who was this actress. She's been in a couple things here or there. I first saw her in the Han Solo movie, where she just had this very small part, but she's this black woman with naturally red hair, and Starfire has been depicted by black actress Anna Diop inside the live-action Titans show, and so I wanted to sort of pay homage to that interpretation of the character as a black woman. Dick Grayson's Robin, aka Nightwing, he was quite a difficult character to interpret for this redesign challenge, particularly because his ethnic identity does not go all the way back to the beginning in the way Raven's does. So with him, it's very interesting because he is universally depicted as a light-skinned, white-passing individual. From his inception to even his latest comic, he is sometimes even depicted as the most pale of all the Robins, which, you know, is a choice. But with just a quick Google search, you'll pretty much find that Dick Grayson is of Romani descent. This is a very new addition into canon, which, you know, it's something that has stood the test of time and has stuck around. As of Rebirth, it is still confirmed that Dick Grayson is of Romani descent. Unlike the Raven situation where, you know, not a lot of people talk about it and it's very cordial, people get very heated when you bring up Dick Grayson being Romani, because some people are like, it's just a one-off story, it shows no bearing to the character. Other people, though, are like, no, it is a choice that was made, we are sticking with it. There is like almost no Romani representation in media, so like, why take away one of the most prevalent opportunities there is to have a Romani character in mainstream media? And other people land in the middle, being like, okay, well, maybe he is Romani, but he's white passing, but also like, is this important for him as a character? And I think the answer to that is it can be if the writer is interested in it. There's this guy on TikTok named Florian, and he actually has talked about Dick Grayson in his TikToks before. He mainly covers everything Romani, being of Romani descent himself. He was such a valuable resource for making this video. I actually owe a lot to him because he talked about if you're a white person who is designing or writing Romani characters, you need to be very aware of like who they are and why you're writing them, and to take inspiration from real Romani people themselves. So for my redesign of Dick Grayson, I kept him white passing because he's 1/4 Romani from his mom's side, I think now is the current standing in the comics. And I found this really interesting story that Florian also talked about, the actress Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was essentially an actress during the golden age of Hollywood, but her career was limited because she was seen as a person of color, being Romani, and her career didn't take off until the Hollywood studios dyed her hair, like bleaching it to a red color. She had electrolysis to get rid of a lot of the hair on her hairline, and then, you know, had to like really lighten her complexion with makeup to appear as a white woman. And then her career really took off. So she had to like suppress her Romani heritage in order to like be successful in Hollywood. So like Florian said, I think that you could take the real details of this actual half Romani woman and apply it to Dick Grayson's mother, who is also half Romani. Perhaps the Flying Graysons circus troupe had some anti-Romani prejudice, and so she had to suppress that part of her heritage and be as white passing as possible in order for them to like accept her. And maybe her husband didn't even know, and maybe there could be a cool mini series where Robin or Dick Grayson is like undercovering the really interesting life of his mother. I would also love to see like maybe he meets a cousin of his who's like also a superhero but who is full Romani and dark-skinned, because y'all, there are only 3 Romani people in comics, and one of them is Wanda Maximoff, her twin, and Dick Grayson, and they are almost always depicted as light-skinned or completely whitewashed. So yeah, I would love an inclusion of a dark-skinned Romani person who could talk to Dick, and maybe they could have a cool back and forth, and you know, it'd just be cool. I would like to see it. As for other things with this redesign, I guess I should talk about the fashion instead of just my headcanons. So it's funny because it's like, okay, maybe he knows nothing of his Romani heritage. He got adopted super young by billionaire Batman, and I can have a whole rant on my thoughts on Batman. But all I know is that if you were raised by a billionaire, you probably aren't very well adjusted, but he'll probably be very hot. So I put him in stealth wealth fashion, which is this trend of the super wealthy wearing clothes that are luxury brands and actually super expensive but look like plain clothing. So of course he's wearing all beiges, and his sweater is definitely cashmere, and that watch is a Rolly, and his shoes are probably like $1,000 or something obscene. And because I keep giving everyone props, I gave him like a motorcycle key. That's his prop, because I gave Raven the book and Starfire the little sunglasses. So yeah, anyway, he's a rich kid. I don't know, I just feel like that's something not normally explored, is he's super wealthy but probably needs to be like, no, I'm one of you. Now we're drawing Cyborg, which is really fun and a good change of pace because I love Cyborg, and unlike Dick Grayson, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with him. Cyborg is just your normal, everyday kind of guy. Like, I know this dude. He's a jock, but he's super smart, and he's a computer science major. He's the oldest of all of the Teen Titans. Like, even when I was watching the show growing up, because he was the tallest, I always just assumed he was the oldest and that he was kind of like the chaperone of the group. So yeah, he's definitely is still in his teens, like still technically a teen, also taking classes at a community college. And of course, he's part robot because of the accident, and he's a football player. So I just made him really hot and really muscular, and he's a jock. What do you want from me? But he definitely has like amazing taste in music, and he goes thrift shopping and finds really good finds. Like, so I imagine he was like at a thrift store and found this like vintage shirt that had ramen on it, and he was like, wow, this is a cool shirt. I love ramen. I love food. I'm gonna wear it with short shorts so my thighs are out, and really good Nike shoes that match the socks. I know nothing of sneakers. And I barely know anything about music. So I just imagine Cyborg is that cool friend that knows all the things that I don't know where to get deals on fashion. He's just a great friend I would love to have. So I didn't want him to be like angsty or dark, because I feel like that's played out. I just wanted him to be really cool. If I were to write for Cyborg, I think the first thing I would do is give him things to do. I hated when he was moved onto the Justice League and he was like, you're in timeout, you just have to stay in the frickin' satellite space station and never go on any adventures. And if you do, it's always has to do with your father and your relationship with him. And it's the same story over and over again. I guess, I'm tired of seeing Batman's parents get shot. It's a similar thing with Cyborg. So I would love for him to have lots of adventures, particularly with technology. Hello, have you seen 2023? We are a post-apocalyptic, weird cyberpunk society wasteland, y'all. It's getting really freaking bananas out here. Like, AI is crazy. So I just feel like Cyborg could have a really interesting storyline where he's taking on AI and AI-related problems. Like, I just feel like AI supervillain makes sense, or maybe there's an AI there's a ghost in the machine and Cyborg can actually talk to it, or maybe people are like, we don't like you because you're artificial intelligence. All of these things could be explored in really interesting storylines. I feel like it'd be so fun, and it could be very paprika and very cyberpunk, and it could just be cool. You all know I love cyberpunk if you're familiar with this channel. I think it's such a great genre. He has cool body modifications and a laser arm. He's just great, and he shouldn't be the freaking Wade from Kim Possible. Was that his name? He needs stuff to do. Gosh darn it. I just really like Cyborg. Last but certainly not least is Beast Boy, the comedic ending rounding out the group. The shortest, the youngest, the funny guy. We all know him. He was pretty simple. He's had a lot of different incarnations too, particularly like the one in 2003, then the original appearance that he had in the comics. Like, he was much more of a rich kid with like these extremely wealthy parents. He lived in a mansion, but he was alone because his parents were always away. I don't see that for Beast Boy. I took a lot of inspiration from him from my vegan friends because he can turn into animals. So I'm like, no, today if there was a Beast Boy, he would be vegan, and he'd also be a skater boy. And I'd keep his Doom Patrol origin. I'm really running out of steam, you guys. I sound so tired, but I promise I am so passionate about what's going on. I just really want to keep talking about Cyborg and how cool he is, and how I love computer adventures like Cyber Chase. But I can't do that because now I'm supposed to be talking about Beast Boy. But I don't want to talk about Beast Boy. I want to talk about Cyborg. I love how they're bros, so let's talk about them together. I love their friendship. I think I gave him a skater boy outfit. His hair was too flat. It looked like he was wearing a hat, and he took it off. And I think he's the most unchanged out of all of the characters I have presented here today. So I don't really need to talk about Beast Boy, and I can go back to talking about Cyborg. I think Cyborg is really cool, and I think that they should have this competitive edge, but I also think Cyborg is older, so he takes on this position where he's like trying to give Beast Boy advice, especially about girls. Like, I want to see Beast Boy going to Cyborg being like, yo, I have no game. I really like Terra, but I also like Raven. What do I do? And Cyborg is like, you need to stay faithful to your woman. Like, I am with Bumblebee, and me and Karen are tight, and you have to be respectful to women. And Beast Boy's like, I don't know how to do that. Y'all, I need to go to bed. Okay, I'm gonna refocus. His prop is a reusable tote bag to help the environment, and Cyborg's prop was his headphones because he has great taste in music. And now that you've seen all of these designs, I just want to do a very quick speed draw of all of them in a teen environment. So for my closing thoughts, I put all of the characters in a mall because it's the most stereotypical thing that teenagers can do, and I just want to take a moment to talk about how weird it is drawing a redesign of the Teen Titans because I've made them young, like they're all Gen Z here, and I would love to see an interpretation of the characters that way. It's interesting because in the comics right now, we still have the George Perez, Marv Wolfman versions of the characters that are the new Teen Titans that have continued aging, so I guess they're like boomers, or are they like millennials? I think they're millennials, but they've grown up and now they're just the Titans and they've taken over for the Justice League. And I think that's great and all, especially for readers that have been enjoying these characters for years. Like, comic book readers should be rewarded for the continuity and for sticking around. But I would love to have either an Elseworld stories or a cartoon or a TV show, or God forbid if the live action movies ever get their act together, that depict the Teen Titans as actual teenagers today and not throw them into the past. Like, I think the Titans show on HBO Max kind of fiddled around with this idea, but even still, we didn't get like a true Robin to Nightwing, like a very teenager story. Like, they're all sort of adults, and I would like to see them younger and see what their dynamic is and have them acting goofy and juvenile and all of those great things. And I just love the idea of these very, very different kids, almost in a Breakfast Club scenario. How do they meet? What is the glue that binds them together in a modern context? Especially with like the headlines coming out today, like people are freaking out about UFOs and alien bodies in Mexico. Like, there's tons of things that you can do there with Starfire. I already touched on Cyborg and how, you know, all the threats of AI generated images, copyright, computer scares, like there's tons of storylines you can do with that. And then also, you know, billionaires and capitalism is not great. And Dick Grayson, though very tragic, is definitely a nepotism baby. Like, his dad is so rich. So I just feel like having this rich kid versus Raven, who essentially is extremely, like, not as wealthy as he is and has had this very hard life. All of those dynamics are so interesting. I think, I don't know, I would like to explore all of those in a comic book run. I just think that would be fun. Anyway, I really enjoy the perspective of this piece and all of their outfits and them all being friends together. I like that I'm the little skateboard that Beast Boy's holding. I end up putting the Teen Titans logo on it, and then to kind of fill out the mall, I added background characters that were actually chosen by my Patreon. So yeah, it was really fun. Somebody really wanted Jinx, and one last little thing that happened was when I was adding Jinx as a character in the background, I didn't know where to like stick this in the video, so I guess I'll just put it here. But going back to the very beginning with Raven and how she's been whitewashed, I found out that Jinx, the character who's like an albino girl, is actually like confirmed definitely whitewashed, because the original Jinx was an Indian woman. She's been depicted with like dark skin recently, but her first appearance is also as this like gray-skinned character and with like pink eyes, and she has this horn motif, which you can tell was translated into the hairstyle. But I just think that's interesting that the very first depiction of her, even as an Indian woman, was with this gray skin, and then Jinx has gray skin, and then Raven in the cartoon also has gray skin. Like, she doesn't have Caucasian skin like how Robin does, and I know that that's probably just an artistic thing because she's goth, but I do think it's interesting that it's like there's this subtle colorism of she's not, I don't know, has she ever been white? I don't know. She definitely is in the live action Titans show, but I don't know. That's just food for thought, and I didn't know where to put it into the video, but it's just something that I think is interesting. And also this idea of, you know, it's not just about the Teen Titans or the second generations of heroes. Maybe there should be a second generation of villains, so you can have Jinx, the primary one, who is this Indian woman, and then the albino girl could also be her sidekick, and maybe there could be explosions with that. I also just miss their villains. I feel like most of the time when you read them now, they don't get like full-fledged story arcs. Like, I miss the High Five and all of those wonderful adventures. I don't know, I'm just gonna get sentimental from this point forward. This is the finished piece. I love how it came out. I think they're all so cute together, and it's that time of the video. I need you to tell me, who is your favorite Teen Titans show? What's your favorite iteration? Are you a Teen Titans 2003? Are you a Teen Titans Go girly? No shame. We're not going to shame anyone in the comments for liking Teen Titans Go. It's funny. We are past that. Or you have only read the comics. What's your favorite run? Do you like the Titans live action show? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, tell me your favorite Teen Titan and which one of these redesigns was your favorite, or things that you'd add. Any thoughts or headcanons you have for the redesigns that I've shown you here today. And with all that being said, please feel free to like and subscribe. My Patreon members suggested the background characters in this drawing. You can make suggestions too, and for just $4 a month, you can have your name in the end credits. Link in the description. And speaking of end credits, here they are now. Special thanks to Anna Sophia Boyd, Axilius the Great, Blue Uwu, Kay Clark, Christopher, Dabadoodoo, Dax Quinn, Emma Wee, Gay Jarrus, Jay Johar, JD Boy 2000, Johan, Kitsune Chibiko, Lucky Paradox, Melon, Mild Mothman, Native Runner, Orion Amastasia, Pinecone, Potion Cellar Door, Rin, Scorching Ray, Sir Camelot, Smalls the Sax Jammer, Shenanigans, Tad the Turtle, Tarthalinor, The Real Michael, Thumper Daytime, Thony, Tortilla Chips, Tuesdays Anyways, Tundra Katie Bean, and Tuppence Pies. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Nathan, and I'll upload a new video real soon. Bye!